continues to burn tonight in LaPorte, and it could go on for at least another 2 days. The fire has reportedly been contained to 6 or 7 storage tanks, and despite the huge cloud of black smoke, officials say it's not likely to affect people's health. According to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, all detections were below levels that would represent a public health concern. If there are no significant weather changes, that shouldn't change. Joining us here to talk about this, emergency medicine specialist, Dr. Abdullah Kudrath from Angleton ER, and for legal matters concerning the fire, attorney Jason Rowe, because you know people will sue. They want their money, their bags, right?
They will sue.
But first, let's talk about the health issues. And for those who may have respiratory problems, who should be most concerned about this smoke and what's in it?
That's right, Isaiah. It is concerning. Now, currently, health officials are saying that the levels are not dangerous, but the fire is still going, and there's more and more smoke being put into the air. And some people are more sensitive to respiratory contaminants. So people who have a history of any type of respiratory disease, such as asthma, COPD, emphysema, these type of things, have to be more vigilant for the development of symptoms. If they develop any symptoms such as shortness of breath, cough, irritation, that's a sign that they should seek medical treatment.
What about women who may be pregnant? And is there any way in order to avoid being exposed to it, like the little face mask that we see we can buy over the counter at various drugstores around Houston?
I mean, currently they're saying the levels aren't dangerous, but I think it would be a good practice to try to avoid being outside as much as you can. These masks may or may not help because sometimes these contaminants can be quite small, and without the special type of mask, it may not help as much.
And what about pregnant women? Are they more susceptible than anyone else?
They can be, but I think they should stay tuned to the public officials, and if they do issue a warning for evacuation or staying in place, then that should be listened to.
All right, Jason Rowe, attorney, we know there's only a matter of time before some attorney files a class action lawsuit on behalf of the residents there. When will we likely see that, and is the situation right for a possible lawsuit against this company, ITC?
I think it is right for the possible lawsuit. You're already starting to see law firms advertise, so I've already seen, if you do a Google search, you can already pull up for plant fires in Texas, and law firms are doing this already, and they've keyed in on Deer Park at this point. So they're already gearing up for these lawsuits. They'll be ready to go. I think it's probably going to be the next week or so. As soon as we get more information, we have a couple factors in place. So there was $200,000 in fines and penalties against this plant over the last 10 to 12 years. For failures to monitor air and water quality properly or contamination of property. One of the chemicals, toluene, which leaked into the water supply that they were fined for, is one of the chemicals that's now on fire and now being released into our atmosphere. That chemical is harmful to humans and aquatic life when it gets into the water supply. I think it's going to be inevitable. You're going to see some damages here. But when it comes down to it, people have to be able to show that their injuries were caused by the fire. And by these,
and that's key. First, you have to have injuries, not that you're just signing on to a lawsuit.
Right. You have to have injuries. You have to be able to show damages. I'm not saying go outside. Do not go outside and hang out. So many of the posts I see are people on Facebook or people in person where it's like, I walked outside today and I felt nauseous. Well, there's still a shelter in place, so it comes back to the old doctor joke. Sorry, but it comes back to the old joke. Doctor, it hurts when I move my knee like this, and the doctor's like, don't move your knee. There's a shelter in place. If you feel nauseous when you go outside, listen to the public officials. Don't go outside. Try to avoid those damages if you can, because what you're going to get may not be able to fully recover, or reimburse you for your damages.
Now, Doc, for those who are concerned about their health, what kind of symptoms, if any, should take them to the emergency room if they're exposed to it? Right now they're saying there shouldn't be any issues, but if they feel like they're facing some type of contaminant or it's in their system, should they go to the emergency room? Should they go to their family doctor? Where should they go in a situation like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's changing rapidly because, as we saw, it started with one chemical, the naphthalene, and then it moved on to other chemicals. But that puts into the atmosphere carbon monoxide, different things like that. Some of the symptoms they should look for are nonspecific. It could be headache, nausea, fatigue. But then, of course, if you see these symptoms and they start getting severe or shortness of breath, that's a sign that you should go to the emergency department, because we may want to work fast to try to figure out what your oxygen levels are and what we need to do to improve them.
All right. Thank you guys for coming on The Factor Uncensored and for your valuable information. Next up on The Factor Uncensored, the city of Houston has announced it's moving forward with implementing Proposition B. That means up to 500 firefighters and city workers could soon be laid off. The mayor's office says the city asked to implement the 29% raise over 5 years, but was refused by the Houston Professional Firefighters Association. As soon as May, the city says firefighters will be issued lump sum checks for back pay covering the raise for the period of January through the first part of May. Now, here